Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
It's appropriate that on the episode we talk about summer break is the episode where all three of us are just barely hanging on.
Yes. Yeah.
You guys are hanging on?
You know what? Surprisingly, I'm doing the best out of all three of us.
I'm putting on a brave face right now.
Yeah, that's because you could have woke up 15 minutes ago and just rolled into this room.
I understand the privilege that I had, which is why I made a point to shower before you guys got here. This is the whatever the opposite of After Dark podcasts are. This is the Before Light podcast. We're recording at the crack of whatever. Just because that's what fit into our schedule today. Brad's eyes are more swollen than I've ever seen them. Evan, surprisingly, is more put together than we usually see, which means we get end of day ragged Evan usually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I only really have a few clothes right now, so I just throw on whatever I could potentially wear to the golf course.
Whatever boxes were closest to the bedroom.
Yeah.
As you've been unpacking.
The real problem is the laundry hasn't been done since we moved in, since there's 1,000 other things to do. And I'm getting down to my C and D tier list clothing now. Yeah, it's a tough life, let me tell you.
Yeah, this polo doesn't even have the Masters logo on it.
Yeah, this is just some crappy one I bought from Golf Town.
It looks so nice. Meanwhile, I'm wearing a Lions jersey. Is it because I love the Lions? No one does. We love the Lions, but we don't love the Lions. It's because I have no other clothes that aren't wrinkly. And when you put yourself on camera, that is now something you have to be cognizant of. Because my parents know how to use YouTube, and if my mom sees this, she'll murder me if it's wrinkly clothes. Anyways, begrudgingly? No, that's not the right word. We're here, the Winged Wheel Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Ryan Hanna.
I'm mostly Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
So, like we alluded to, summer break. Summer break, for those of you who've been listening for a while on the Winged Wheel Podcast, doesn't look like what you might imagine summer break to be. We're still going to be here once a week. Patrons, you're still going to get something extra. Where in the place of the midweek episode, we'll have a Patreon exclusive. Except for this upcoming week, we probably won't, just to give ourselves a minute to breathe, and then we'll kick back into it. But yeah, summer break for us means we post our usual episodes on Sundays instead of the 2 weeks, and we just kind of get to chill out, hang out, recharge, let the news flow in, because as you've noticed, it's slowing down quite a bit now after the absolute flurry that's been the last few weeks. Month, etc.
It's been one flurry.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I realize as we're recording.
No, actually, there's been 3. 2 went to Seattle.
Yeah, see, because I got that wrong.
Yeah.
So you got that wrong. And as punishment, can you turn on the studio lights? I realized I didn't even turn them on.
I don't know. They're pretty far away, man.
And so that'll be starting now. If there's a big news episode, let's say Verona signs for 8 years, $90 million a year or something like that, we're going to be putting out an episode whenever that is. So if that happens on a Tuesday, we'll obviously put out a midweek episode, and we'll all just adjust. Thank you, Brad.
I don't like this. This is too much light.
Yeah, well, actually, I should have done that to wake us up sooner. But yeah, we made it. We'll be doing this until things pick back up, and that'll probably be, I don't know, a month or so. But we try not to predict these things, because the moment we commit to anything as a hard date, the world has a way of slapping us around.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait for that Verona extension to come through in 30 minutes.
I'm fully prepared for that to happen. And yeah. And then at which point, Evan.
That group chat will be on a 7-day mute until Sunday. So that's your problem, not mine.
Anyhow, thank you to all new listeners and listeners who have been listening for a long time. I appreciate you sticking with us through what was the most fun off-season that we've had since we started this show. So,
deal with it, man.
Did you put a drink in your travel mug that had ice in it?
Yes.
What did you think that sound was?
No, I'm just saying, for a guy who's in front of a mic so often.
Normally, I'd never bring this here. What's extenuating circumstances?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about what you've done for the last 24 hours. This man should be in jail just so he can sleep. Okay. The other point that I want to make here is to mention the Jamie Daniels Foundation, which is a foundation that we are proud to partner with. The more we talk about substance use disorder, the faster we can end the stigma and get support to those in need. The Jamie Daniels Foundation is a children's foundation initiative, and it was established in memory of Jamie Daniels and founded by Jamie's father and Red Wings lead announcer Ken Daniels and Jamie's mother, Lisa Daniels Goldman. They strive to end the stigma of substance use disorder and provide support to those struggling with the disease or who are in recovery. To learn more and support the Jamie Daniels Foundation, visit jamiedanielsfoundation.org. And as always, I shouldn't say as always, as we've mentioned over the last few episodes, the Winged Wheel podcast night at Little Caesars Arena, November 13th. That's the Red Wings versus Montreal Canadiens game. Please let us know if you're interested in coming to that. There is a pregame meetup, in which case Evan will be signing all the autographs your heart desires. There will be special guest appearances. We'll be all sitting together in sections for the game. And then we're going to be doing a post-game live episode recording. So there'll be giveaways, there'll be merch, everything like that. So if you're interested, go to the link in the bio of the episode, the link in the description of the episode, or wingedwheelpodcast.com/blog, and you'll see the post there. There's a survey for you to fill out so we know if you're interested, how many tickets you're interested in, and just how many autographs you want from Evan.
Yeah, it'll be 0.
What if it's like for each autograph, it's an extra $1 to the Jamie Daniels Foundation?
Sure, I'll do that.
You should have upped the price, actually.
Yeah, that's true. I just sold myself short. It's too early. You can't be throwing proposals like this out at me.
Oh, man. If that's all it takes, and I have a lot of stuff that you say no to, I'll save for the waking hours. You know what we did last episode that we should be ashamed of? You know how sometimes it's the end of a long episode and we miss an obvious answer?
No.
Yeah, not you. That's for me and Brad. You get everything right. The Red Wings Mount Rushmore question. We didn't even mention Scotty Bowman.
I considered Scotty. He was rattling around in my head, but I mean, technically Mike Ilitch is the one who would have officially hired him, so I prioritized that, right? You kind of go up the hierarchy there. Because they were there at the same time. And without Mike Ilitch, there's no Scotty Bowman in Detroit.
My thought was I don't want to go all from the same generation. That feels disrespectful to the initial however many 60, 70 years of one of the greatest sports franchises of all time.
Yeah, but Gordy was there for all of those, so he counts. He fills the quota.
He was, eh? All right. The biggest NHL news that we've had since last episode is this Darnell Nurse contract, which people figured might be coming. Darnell Nurse, obviously Edmonton Oilers lefty, had a fantastic season last year. Great defenseman. 26 years old. Mm-hmm. Signed an extension. So this next season is the last year of his contract. He's making $5.6 million. He signed an extension starting age 27 for $9.25 million a year. The last 3 years have a modified no trade clause and a no move clause. And the last 4 years are buyout proof because each of the last 4 years have a $6 million signing bonus. So 8 years, 9.25. Is this the market now for premier defensemen again, or are we doing this like spike and drop? Spike and drop for sure. There's no way this is sustainable. It's just not. And if you look at the way NHL teams are being constructed, and I'm going to say the good teams, and the distribution of funds usually, forwards drive teams more than defensemen do. Defensemen are there to make sure that everything doesn't go wrong. Forwards are the ones who make things happen. And you want to fight this early in the morning?
Tampa Bay agrees with me. Anyways, and Stevie built that team. So
Tampa Bay, who has a stout defense, a robust defense,
who don't have a single defenseman making what Darnell Nurse is making.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good money.
You need good defense. I am not arguing that, but much like our goaltending conversation, you can find good defensemen for a lot cheaper than you can find good forwards who can actually impact a game. But it's kind of like this weird domino effect of Stan Bowman breaking the market, and I don't see that sustainable because he just wanted to make a splash because he knows his job's on the line. And then, you know, Colorado did the same thing with Cale Makar, except he's younger, better, etc. He's worth $9 million.
That was a good contract.
The premium free agent on the market was a defenseman, which usually isn't always the case. So it was just this perfect storm of what the hell. And then you had a couple guys who just decided to follow along for whatever reason. Cause again, in Ken Holland's world, just not signing the contract still doesn't feel like it's not an option. I don't know if that made sense, but
no, I know what you mean. Like, it's always automatic with Ken. Like, you talk to him in the presser. He goes, well, that's what it cost. Like, I had no other choice. And it's like, no, but you do, right? Like, it's your pen on the paper at the end of the day.
Yeah. For what they paid Darnell Nurse. And don't get me wrong. I like Darnell Nurse. He is a good defenseman. But also he just got $9.25 million a year through his age 35 season after spending over 50% of his time on the ice with Connor McDavid this season and shooting an unsustainably high, career high shooting percentage. It feels like a bad recipe. It probably is going to be. And the Oilers would have been better off if they just said, thanks, but no thanks, and just kind of keep him as a rental this year and then replace him with a body or two that's like less than a third of the price next year.
I think Darnell Nurse had to be part of the long-term solution in Edmonton. Like, he had a great year. It was some of that driven by shooting percentage and playing with Connor McDavid. I mean, both the eye test and the underlying numbers, dictate as much. But I'm coming from the opposite bias as you. I really overvalue defensemen. And I think in the context of, you know, what puts you over the hump? What makes the difference in key games in the playoffs? Like, what do people remember when you're lifting the cup? That's the kind of stuff that's harder to quantify because it's not 5-on-5. It's not over the course of an 82-game season. But in my personal opinion, that matters. If I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan, I'm happy that Darnell Nurse is now in Edmonton for the next 9 years at least. But I don't know what it is with UFA contracts. Look, if he's worth 9.25, fine. Like, if that's what he's worth on the market, fine. Like, I don't think he's that overpaid. I don't think that number is so egregiously high. My thing is, if you're going to go 8 years, where's the trade-off? Because it's 8 years. So
is he going to get like 4 years at $11 million? Is that what Ken Holland was trying to avoid?
The Oilers would have been better off doing that, I would argue.
Yeah.
The base salary is high now and low later, but he also has $6 million in signing bonus for the last 4 years. So it all evens out. But yeah, like, if you're going to use that 8-year button, Ken, there has to be a trade-off. There's signing bonus protection at the end, which makes it much harder to buy out. There's no move and no trade for the last 3 years. It is at the top of what his money value could be. Kevin Weeks made the point of superstar defensemen are so rare, or like even star defensemen are so rare that you don't get them at discounts. And then to that I say, fine, sign them for 6 years, sign them for 5. It's not the worst deal in history. I want to put that out there. It's just, this feels a lot. There've been a lot of contracts this offseason where I'm like, oh man, this honestly all feels reactionary and a bit emotional and a bit panicky. And it feels like something we'll be talking about in 5 years. Like, what the hell happened that offseason? It's
got 2016 written all over it again, except with better players, but way more money in term than what was handed out in 2016. I know how the narrative of this offseason is going to play out because almost every one of these big contracts is going to look pretty good to decent over the next 2 to 4 years. And everybody's going to be like, oh, see, you guys were all exaggerating. It's exactly what's happening with Josh Anderson in Montreal right now, where he had a good year. And everybody's like, oh, see, you guys all overreacting. We're like, yeah, it wasn't years 1, 2, 3, 4 we were worried about. So the same thing's going to happen. Seth Jones will probably have a decent bounce back on a better team in Chicago. Makar, Hamilton, Nurse, they'll all be great, and they'll be go, oh, see, we blew this out of proportion, completely missing the context of, yeah, no, it's the back half of all of these that are going to be an absolute dumpster fire.
If a contract is balanced front to back half, I'm actually like, to me, that's another contract within the contract, right? Or like a gamble within the contract. You're just taking a bet that'll be, you're taking the pain later to help yourself out in the shorter term. And if you're Edmonton, doesn't matter if you agree or not, you have to think, yeah, we need to try to win now, because if we don't start winning now, A, the fans may kill me, and B, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl maybe are gone. So I get that. But like, yeah, I'm thinking of like Coleman. I'm thinking of like Hyman.
They all apply, because you look at most of those contracts that have been signed, they're by guys who know they're in tenuous positions. Ken Holland signed this contract knowing that if they don't win a cup in the 3-4 decent years of it, he's not going to be here for the back half of it. So he doesn't care. It's the same thing Stan Bowman's thinking in Chicago. It's the same thing Jim Benning's thinking in Vancouver. They're like, okay, yeah, the back half of these contracts suck. Who cares? Either I win a cup and nobody complains, or I don't win a cup and I'm not here to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's understandable from that person's standpoint. This is kind of one of those areas where someone above him above these guys in the organization needs to step in and go, are we sure about this?
Yeah. It's funny because I'm looking at Dom's ranking of all Dom Luchichen's of the Athletics. He talked about the best deals, the worst deals, and like the good value scrap heap ones. And the Hyman deals actually rates really well, believe it or not.
Yeah, because he's actually a legitimately good player who's going to very much help Edmonton in the immediate short term. It's years like 4, 5, 6 that are going to be the problem.
Speaking of defensemen, guess who has one of the best value contracts?
Cale Makar.
I don't think he did Cale Makar just because he's an RFA deal.
Okay.
Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, not surprising.
Love that signing. Anyways, it's going to be interesting to see how these all pan out. Some of them will. And you know what? That feeds into the next topic here. And it's kind of a bigger, broader discussion and more relevant to Red Wings fans. The Red Wings are probably going to be a lottery team for the next 2 years. And I'm setting that limit at 2 years because you have 3 players who are quite potentially franchise level talents coming out of those drafts. In Shane Wright, Malty Michkov, and Connor Bedard.
Matvey.
I always say Malty. My God. Matvey. Whose name am I injecting in there?
Setkov?
Yeah, Malty, Setkov,
Yeah, because they're comparable.
Yeah, don't worry, Red Wings fans. It's coming soon. And whether you like the tank or not, it makes sense to not accelerate your rebuild before you see if you have a chance at those guys. That said, the Red Wings are a better team. You cannot slow that down. Like, literally you cannot, and it's a bad idea to make yourself intentionally worse when you're ready to be better. So their lottery odds are likely not going to be top of the pile at the end of the next 2 seasons. There's a real chance that the Red Wings don't win the lottery. They're actually, statistically speaking, the Red Wings are not going to win the lottery either of the next 2 years.
Shocking. I don't know what would have ever led us to brace for that.
So, what is Detroit's answer for a number 1 center of the future? Because they'll need one.
When I have a good answer, I'll let you know. Steve Yzerman's been trying to figure this out since he got here. There isn't a good answer here. Lottery ball luck or one hell of a trade. Now,
or the expensive, ugly, you don't want to think about it. You pay someone like nuts in free agency. You're not going to get their whole career. You're going to get them at age 27, 28, whatever. And you're going to be paying for it later. And that's why you go through that's why you're stingy on the cap now, to make it so you can afford that. And you're going to have to really accelerate that window because you're going to have that person for 5 solid years.
Well, yeah. And the catch there is, and like, this is going to sound like an insult. It's not meant to be. You still have to convince them to come to Detroit.
Yeah.
When you're bidding against the Rangers, Los Angeles, who's going to be on the up and coming, like maybe smaller worse markets, but better teams are going to be bidding in at the same time. Like, we talked about Alex Barkov. That is the easiest answer here, but I struggle to find a reason why Alex Barkov would come to Detroit in the middle of a rebuild. Like, if I'm Alex Barkov, I'm not signing in Detroit. I've got a good thing going in Florida where I can win a cup. So unless they're absolutely lowballing him, and if I'm leaving, I'm looking at teams that are in a much better spot. Now, you know, who knows what teams are going to be bidding on him, but if a Vegas, a Tampa, a Rangers, a LA comes to the table who are either already good or way further ahead in their rebuild, those are going to be way better options. The benefit with draft and trade is player doesn't get a say 99 out of 100 times. So you get the guy. Now the catch-22 there is, do the Red Wings have enough to trade for a premium center? Probably not. They have a lot of options coming up. They are stacked in their defensive pipeline. So if they get lucky and a few extra guys hit that they didn't expect to hit, okay, now you have some movable pieces on the back end and maybe premium ones. Maybe, you know, Hronek or Johansson or, God forbid, a Sider you put on the block because you have enough insulation around them to be able to lose one of them. And then you can bring in, you know, a 22, 23-year-old centerman or a 24, 25. I don't know, whoever's available. There's more certainty in that because, again, most players don't have no trade clauses.
I think if the Red Wings don't get it through the draft or organically, I think the Red Wings would be best to look at a team that's relying on one of their best centermen to take a hometown discount or a discount to stay there. This isn't a perfect fit, but I'll say Gabriel Landeskog, for example. They're expecting everybody to take these cheaper contracts, blah, blah, blah. What if the Red Wings, when they're ready, came out and said, here you go. And, you know, I think Steve Yzerman's got that aura and that persona to maybe attract someone like him to say, you know, think what you want about Detroit, but this is what we're building. And when Steve Yzerman talks, and we've seen this with, you know, not the same level, but we've seen it with like the Bobby Ryans, the Sam Gagnes. They said Steve Yzerman was the reason they came.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a great option for the Red Wings when the time is right to strike. Because the other teams are in a position where they can't really match.
Yeah, and you know what? It'll have to be a combination of that. And in my head, I've always been thinking, right, that's how you do it, but that's not really the way Steve Yzerman operates. He always squeezes. But look at some advantages he had in Tampa Bay that you guys just alluded to. That's Florida. It's a lot more popular of a destination just in terms of climate. No income tax, no state income tax in Florida. So that's going to make a big difference to players so he can get it lower on the cap. The more I think about it, the more I think something needs to be done about that in the CBA, but that's a bigger conversation for a different day. I think the Landeskog situation is a great example, actually. Like, honestly, I was looking at Landeskog and I saw the difference in price, and I really thought he would leave. I thought someone would pony up the money. They were saving all that money for the defenseman, but I think if this was not a flat cap world, like a dealing with COVID financial fallout world, I think Landeskog was gone. I think someone's given him $8.5 million.
Somebody would have.
Yeah.
And Colorado ended up doing it. They overpaid him pretty substantially. And
would they end up giving him 7?
I want to say like an 8x7.
Yeah, 8x7.
And
but that's a front half, back half contract.
Yeah. But again, domino effect. Because of that, it ultimately led them to lose a first round pick because they couldn't afford to keep their starting goalie and they had to trade for a cheaper option, which cost them a good prospect and a first round pick. So things like that always have to be factored in. And, you know, I'm a believer overpay for talent, and Landeskog is talent. So overpaying guys like that, I'm not too rattled about. Like, if right now you told me, hey, Barkov's going to skip free agency and you get to jump the line, but you have to pay him $12.5 a year, I'm not thinking twice. I'm absolutely signing that, because if Barkov is objectively worth, let's say 9.5, 10, I'm not sure that's the right number. Let's just say for easy math's sake that he's worth 9.5, but you have to pay him 12.5. I would rather have him and chop a $3 million player off my roster and fill that void with whatever AHL guy than not have an Alex Barkov, because we've seen teams try that method and it doesn't work often. We see Detroit trying to do it right now and we're going, yeah, this isn't going to work. So whatever you have to do. And again, I'll go back to the example of everybody laughed at the Rangers when they signed Panarin saying, yeah, he's a great player, but that's a lot of money and you're not good. Well, nobody's arguing that contract now. And I think the same thing's going to happen with Barkov, whoever signs him next summer. Do I think it'll be Detroit? No. Again, I don't think he'll probably even be in their top 5 destinations unless something changes this year or Yzerman is in fact the greatest salesman in the history of humanity, which, hey, I'm not ruling out.
I think the where only comes into play once the money is in the same ballpark.
Yeah, but with a guy of Barkov's talent,
it will be. Yeah,
there's going to be like
skimping.
There's going to be 12 teams coming to the table for him and coming.
And another like 19 or 20 after that.
Yeah, there's going to be 12 teams that are going to be like at 10, 11, 12 million dollars. And then there's going to be another 18 teams at like 10. Yeah. So there will be a bidding war, and it's fine. And I'm using Barkov as an example. Obviously there's going to be more players in the next few years than him who could fit this exact same conversation. I just haven't bothered to look whose contracts are expiring beyond next year. But yeah, it's the most likely option, but honestly, it's probably also the hardest option.
Barkov at 12.5 by 7. Do you do it?
Yeah, I don't think twice.
Do you do it north of 13?
I probably would still consider it because you just
right. Like it's such a good answer to so much of what the Red Wings.
How
need.
long was the term? Sorry,
you can only sign him for 7 if you're not Florida.
Okay.
But Barkov's only 25, 26. So
that's
not taking him to like 36, 37 years old like most of these other contracts are going.
Yeah.
You really got to hope the cap goes up a little bit to make the contract turn into like a $10 million contract at some point. But man, 13 up front is a lot. But guys like him don't come across the table very often.
No,
elite talent is impossible to get in the NHL.
You want to know who's coming up the year after? None of this will ever happen. Ignoring Ryan O'Reilly, he'll be 32. Matt Barzal, Sean Monahan, Nate McKinnon, Larkin is going to be coming up. Bo Horvat's up. Cirelli's up at age 25.
Yeah, Cirelli's not in that conversation.
No. Rupe Hintz will be up around then. And I'm just looking at guys who are even remotely listed as centers.
We can complete the Eric Cole circle.
Just bring back
storyline. Yeah.
Yeah, we should get Vasilevsky back for the Quincy trade too.
Yeah.
I block the Quincy trade out of my head when people are talking about Holland's legacy and the good and the bad of it. I legitimately don't factor because I can't deal with that one. There's no, I don't want to do that one at all. Yeah. Look, this will all be moot point if we see the Red Wings win either the first overall pick this year or first or second overall pick the year after. And that's very early. Like, I mean, we still really need to dive into those drafts and we haven't yet. There have been those 3 names, but you don't know who else is going to come up who might project to be a possible top 6 centerman.
This is a very, very top heavy draft for forwards, for whatever that's worth in the early analysis of this draft.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple Russians. You've obviously got Shane Wright, Morosnichenko, Savoy, Connor Geeky. Like, there's going to be options here. So even if the Red Wings are picking 5th, 6th, 7th, it's not out of the realm of possibility to get that center in the draft this year. Maybe obviously not to a superstar level, but hey, it could solve some problems.
We're also thinking about this like the Red Wings need a number 1 premier center. Let's say the Red Wings end up with another top 6 center who flip-flops with Larkin early career in terms of where they play in the top 6, number 1 or number 2C. Is that a roster construction that you think can eventually be a cup winner? 2 Larkin level top 6 centers, Veleno, Rasmussen, Suter, whatever, cycling through the next 2 centers, really good wingers, which the Red Wings are already well on the way to in a robust defense.
Yeah, but it's a yes, but with ifs, because those young wingers and defensemen we're talking about, they have to hit. Like, they can't just, Simon Edvinsson is 75% of his ceiling. That won't cut it in this scenario. Lucas Raymond's a good 60-point winger. Doesn't cut it in that scenario. Those guys have to get close to 100% of what they expect they are. Mo Seider's got to be a top 10, top 15 Norris candidate. Simon Edvinsson has to be able to run a power play and be a really, really good number 2. Lucas Raymond's got to be close to a Mitch Marner level of talent. So these things are all possible too. I'm not sitting here and saying, it's a pipe dream. No, those are all possible for those guys. But you do have to beat the odds there a little bit, because we talked about it a lot around the draft is most of your prospects don't pan out. Very few actually reach 100% of their ceiling. If the Red Wings can get, instead of 1 or 2 of their top prospects hitting 100%, if they can get 3 or 4, then that reality becomes very possible, because then you have, 2, let's say hypothetically, elite wingers and 2 elite defensemen. You can very much build around that as long as you have adequate talent surrounding them, because they would be able to do it. So if Lucas Raymond is everything we think he could be, if Jonathan Bergeron is everything we think we could be, and let's say Seider and Edvinsson, and then even if Johansson hit 75%, and a couple of these other guys, Niederbach hit 75%. You're good. That's roster filler at that point. That's fine.
This is going to sound really dumb.
Yeah.
Does Vegas have elite centers?
They don't.
Not really. Like,
that's what I was just going through the past, Stanley Cup winners and the finalists and the teams that are really good. And I was saying, like, everybody's got like a superstar centerman, or at least a top tier centerman. And I got to Vegas and I couldn't really think of anyone I considered to be a premier centerman.
That's why they're in so hard on Jack Eichel.
Yeah. But to be fair,
but they haven't won anything.
They obviously built their team a lot differently, but they are kind of what I'm describing, because they have about 4 elite players outside of the center position that they can build around. Because, you look at, they've got Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty on the wing. William Karlsson is still a really, really good option at center. They have Shea Theodore on defense. They have they had a superstar in net. Like, they did not have that center, but they had guys at every other position who were at the top of their position relative to the entire league. Yeah. So things went very, very right for them there. Cause when they traded for Shea Theodore, nobody thought Shea Theodore was going to be this good. When they brought in Marc-Andre Fleury, nobody thought Fleury would have a season like he just had. And, Mark Stone is probably the one that we're like, oh no, yeah, this is what we thought he was. But
the Shea Theodore, in terms of surplus value, people don't appreciate what he does for that team.
Yeah. No, they don't. He got a lot of Norris votes this year. So.
He did. He's just coming around now. Didn't he not originally start off on Vegas when they had that glutted defenseman and they couldn't move enough? And he had to stay either scratched from the minors, or am I mixing him up with someone else?
I can't remember that. That felt like 10 years ago at this point.
That's going to be 5 years ago. We're half a decade removed. Almost.
The expansion draft was almost 5 years ago.
Yeah.
2017, I want to say.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, their first ever pick was the Rasmussen draft. Think about that.
Oh my. What? Really?
Yep. Cody Glass.
Oh my God.
The expansion draft.
It's fun. They had 3 first round picks that year, and everybody's like, this is the cornerstone of how Vegas is going to get good. None of those 3 play for Vegas.
No. Although, credit to them. That's a thing, right? Like, Seattle's doing something very obvious. They are saying, we don't have the same advantage Vegas does. We're not getting what we want in deals. I think that was mishandled, but they're essentially putting themselves at the bottom of a rebuild to start. That's what they're doing. Kind of.
But they're not. They've got a really good defense, and then they went and spent $1 billion in free agency. They turned themselves into Minnesota.
I think their defense will make them be hard to play against, but I still think they'll lose plenty because they're not scoring a lot.
Montreal was, they were somewhat hard to play against on the back end, with offense coming by whoever was hot that night. But
yeah,
do you think Montreal's going to be contending for a cup every year? Wow. I don't think so.
And also, do you think Montreal's a lottery team this year? I don't think so either.
Yeah.
They based a lot around Shea Weber too, right? While they had him, they milked him for all he was worth. And now that he's retiring, which we didn't talk about, Shea Weber's LTI retiring, which, that man's body is battered and bruised. So you deserve the break, Evan.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's that decision that teams are making, and Red Wings fans are ultra familiar with it because they did that for probably 3-4 more years than they should have, which is why we're here right now, still talking about the draft. Yeah, it's going to be a complicated situation to see where teams like that in Seattle end up. I just this Seattle thing is so funny to me because it's so obvious to see what happened, and in conversations with Ron Francis after, I don't think he's a bad GM. I think he's a good GM. I think he's a smart mind. He has his tendencies, which are very obvious, but if you're asking for a first and a third to protect Jake Allen, and the team says no, you still got to take a second for that, right? Because it's Jake Allen. You do not need
a third. You got to take something.
Yeah.
Because I hear the argument for, let's say a team's going into a trade deadline as a seller, and it happened this year with Detroit and Luke Glendening. In all likelihood, our price for him is X. Let's say a second round pick. If nobody meets that price, I'm not caving for a fifth, because then people know in future trades they can take advantage of me. because the trade deadline comes around every year. Ron Francis misplayed his hand because he's not in this scenario again. He could have made whatever deal he wanted and got suckered into going 3 rounds lower in the pick or whatever it is. And it doesn't matter that much because there's not going to be another expansion draft that he has to navigate to where people go, hey, you were asking for first. I got you for a 4th. I'm going to do that again next time too, except there is no next time. So that's where he really missed for me. But then since we're going down this rabbit hole, my biggest criticism of Francis isn't that he missed. If you hold firm on your price and don't get it, yeah, I think his prices were too high and I don't think he was as flexible as he should be. But his biggest mistake was he didn't have what seemed like a cohesive plan. We came out of the expansion draft and went, okay, maximum cap space, flexibility, taking the approach of a rebuild. I get it. And to an extent, I like it. Like sustained success versus, let's just pray. But then he went and overspent and signed a ton of, not bad, but like spent a lot of money on a lot of big contracts in free agency to players who are not turning this team into a contender, which was the exact opposite mentality of what he took. If you were going to sign Jaden Schwartz to a 5x5, if you were going to give Philip Grubauer 6 years, if you were going to do all this, why did you leave James Van Riemsdyk on the table? Why did you leave Vladimir Tarasenko? You had better players available for better contracts than you signed. That's what I can't reconcile about what happened there. But sorry.
That's why I totally subscribe to the idea that they had the plan of being a cap floor team, and then the ownership picked up the paper the next day or heard the rumblings at the 50,000 Starbucks that they have in Seattle. And they're like, oh God, how are we going to we're not going to be as good as or as popular as we thought in their own head. And then they go back and make knee-jerk reactions and signings. I totally think that's what happened because otherwise it doesn't make any sense to me.
There aren't enough Starbucks close to my house. I realized that the other day. They're all 10-minute drive in each direction, any direction from the house. And to me, that's just unacceptable. That's my embarrassing thing about myself I wanted to say on this podcast. I had that thought and I was like, that's not a rational or normal or good thing to think, so I have to tell that to people.
There's nothing within 10 minutes of my house, so you got that going for you at least.
Yeah, that's because you choose to live out in the... Although, you know what? The city is slowly growing out into you.
Yeah, no, and it's making everything very expensive. It's quite annoying.
Yes, tell me about it.
Welcome to planet Earth.
Yeah.
I'm not strong-willed enough to make a strong declaration about Seattle. I would want to see how they play out a full season. An expansion draft is weird. Admittedly, it's only really been done once in modern NHL history, and it was very atypical, and it caused a lot of change in how the other 31 GMs or 30 GMs handled it. So yeah, I'll have my criticisms of it, but I'm not going to declare Ron Francis a bad GM because of it. I need to see how they go through a full season cycle. I had a lot of ideas.
I think you're going to think that there'll be a lot. You're going to think highly of it because they're in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's a week.
They're going to get inflated. If you told me right here and said, after I ramble on about how they turn themselves into a mediocre team, you can go, oh yeah, but they're going to finish second in the Pacific. I saw into the future. I'd go, yeah, no, I could see that.
It'll be interesting to see what their record is within division and outside it.
I'll just say, from a new team, purely fan perspective, you want to get fans excited. You finish top 2 in your division and you win a playoff round. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, but my argument there is there's better ways to go about that as well. If they wanted to be a team that wanted to make a splash, they didn't build the best team they could have. And if they wanted to be a budget cap rebuild thing, well, then they shouldn't have signed all those contracts. That's my criticism. I'm not saying any one move in a bubble was horrible for what they did. It was just that they didn't go all in either way. Because again, if they wanted to make a splash and maybe even give Vegas a run to win the division, because I think that would have been within the realm of possibility, you don't pass on Tarasenko. You don't pass on Van Riemsdyk. You don't select Carter Twarynski from Philly. There was a better way to go about it if that was your plan.
All right, hear me out. I'll move forward another year into seeing who the UFA centers would be. 2024, 2025 offseason.
2024, 2020.
That's 2 years, right?
That's 3.
3. Well,
Austin Matthews and Sebastian Aho are both going to be UFAs.
Oh.
Well, Austin Matthews is going to play in Arizona.
Yeah, that's off the table.
Is Arizona still going to have a team?
And I'm pretty sure Aho's going to Montreal, but we'll see. If Bergevin's still employed.
Again. Okay. One thing I wanted to chat about quickly, and you'll see why this will be quick in a second before we maybe head into overtime here, is the civil suits regarding Chicago and alleged sexual abuse and writing a reference letter for Aldrich, who was then convicted of sexual abuse elsewhere. This is a story. It's delicate for a lot of reasons. There's a content warning here, quite obviously. It's delicate for a lot of reasons, and the information about it has been released, not sporadically, but we didn't have everything up front. It's hard to talk about because it's hard to talk about. And it's hard to talk about because it's a very complicated thing to navigate, and very few people have done, real reporting on it. There's not a lot of solid, concrete information, and it's still developing fast. Our friend Steve Dangle, and as well as Adam and Jesse over at the Steve Dangle podcast, had Rick Westhead on. And I just want to say, if you want to not just get up to speed, but fully understand what's happening in that situation, please go listen to that episode of that podcast. There's also a transcript floating around. I'll retweet it. I read it. Actually, I read it before I could listen to it. It is a little horrifying, but it is real and it's raw. And I applaud Rick and I applaud the guys over on that pod for doing what they did, because it really kind of, more eloquently than we could put it, illustrates what's happening in this situation in a way where no detail is, no important detail is spared, but it also is very, I don't want to say careful. It's very proper in how they approach it. It's a complicated situation. It's a civil suit. It's not a criminal one. You can't make a declaration about, imprisonment or anything like that without, acknowledging that it's just an ongoing case and it's not a criminal case, and it's messy, but it's done the best job I've seen anyone else do. And I really think that people should go listen to that.
It really helped clarify the legal arguments about what was going on, because we all understand,
uncomfortable as they are.
Yeah. For the most part, we understand the context of the events, but the part that Chicago's not even arguing, oh, this didn't happen. It's just, no. It doesn't matter if it happened or not. We're not legally responsible.
And that might hold.
It might, but it's telling in the sense of that they're not even trying to deny the situation.
What my biggest takeaway is no matter what happens with the civil suit, I think there is a weight of responsibility here on the NHL to either ensure that the, independent review being done by the law firm that was hired by Chicago is just that, and or making sure that they are conducting their own either review of that review or their own independent review, and there are consequences to this. Because from what we know now, there already deserve to be. So I'm going to withhold judgment until we see what happened. I think the NHL has been too slow. I think the NHL and the NHLPA have a lot to answer for into why it even got to this point. But I'm happy at least that this is coming out now, and I'm hoping that this is, with enough public pressure, acts as a turning point for how the NHL handles it moving forward.
Yeah, maybe I just sound like an asshole or a pessimist. Well, I definitely sound like a pessimist.
Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast.
Well, yeah, welcome. Maybe this comment is very on brand, but when organizations investigate themselves, you aren't getting anything out of it. And especially a business that insulates itself and protects their own, a la the old boys club or whatever. Until there's some sort of federal, governmental, or some sort of investigation that, is fully independent and not hired by the NHL or hired by Chicago, I don't think anything's coming of it. So I know that sounds like such a bad, I hate, that being what I think the resolution is or what will come out of it. But I just have no faith in the NHL to, do the right thing, because at this point it hasn't trended in the right way.
Well, there's some kind of quote about a fool and hope and something like that, but it doesn't come to me. So let's hope that that the trends that we see are a little bit better. So we'll see how that one unfolds. And again, kudos to Rick Westhead as well as Steve Yzerman.
He does great investigative journalism.
Incredible. Yeah, really good. And he also mentions Katie Strang and her work for The Athletic in there. I think she deserves all the recognition in the world. Okay, why don't we head into overtime on this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast? And again, our plan is to talk to you again next Sunday. However, the Verona news might come out before then, so you might hear from us before then, depending on when that news comes out. So we're going to start with Patreon. I know we had some Reddit questions last week that we didn't get to, so we'll actually jump back to a few of those, but we're going to start with Patreon. Antonio Gracia says, not sure if you guys are whiskey drinkers, but I was thinking, what would be a good drink and toast to make at the start of the next season?
Hopefully not bleach.
I don't know. I'm not a shot person. I'm many years past that.
You don't toast to victory. Toast to the kids, toast to cider, toast to whatever rookie is going to make their appearance, and
pain for Shane.
Pain for Shane. That's actually a really good one. Pain for Shane, and pick like the most aggressive drink that you could have that hits the back of your throat.
Fireball mixed with tequila.
Why? Oh.
You said aggressive. There it is.
Whiskey and Tabasco.
I would sooner. The sick part of me would actually enjoy that. What Brad mentioned actually just made my stomach curl.
Oh, yeah, same.
Yeah.
It's everything I hate.
I am new here says, who is the more common initiator of arbitration, player, agent, or other? I think
player agent would be the same.
Yeah, it's one of the same, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say agent here, but not because, agents are evil and they encourage players to do things that hurt the team. No, it's because players literally, they're like this. I play hockey. I don't know how to negotiate. These are big sums of money. You tell me if I'm getting what I'm worth. You tell me if they're lowballing. So like agent, if you're asking who says it, but it's one and the same. You're right, Brad.
Yeah. Players will go to the agent. I want this much money over this much years and I'd prefer to not be traded. See what you can do. And that's generally about the player's involvement. And then the agent goes and does all the talking, negotiating, and then comes back to the player. All right. Here's what they're saying. Here's what we can get. Here's your other options.
Yeah. Ben Glissman says, hey guys, longtime listener, relatively new subscriber. Ben, thank you so much for your support of the Winged Wheel podcast. Says, I started to learn to play hockey recently and wondered if you have any favorite solo drills that I could try during stick and puck time. If it, like very simple ones, aside from like dumping some pucks or obstacles around and just stick handling around them. When I was first starting to play hockey when I was younger, do your circles, skate around the circles and, do the figure eights and stuff. Do it with a puck on your stick. That'll teach you just the natural puck handling as you move, and then you can advance up from there.
I'm a big believer in screwing around. Just grab a puck and try shit. Dumb stuff, fun stuff that you think sounds a little more practical, just so you get comfortable with everything. And then that's more so for puck skills, shooting, all that kind of stuff. For skating, learn to be able to live on your edges. And the easiest one to do that is just 1 foot up, 1 foot on the ice, and kind of make S cuts in the ice and then switch legs, just because most
poor guy's going to break his ankle.
Well, that's the thing. That's exactly the point. Most beginners don't have the proper ankle strength and or flexion to properly utilize their edges. So it's something to focus on pretty early.
Aaron Hudson says, hey boys, I have a food question. I'm in the minority, but I believe pineapple belongs on pizza. Are any of you with me? Hell yeah.
I'm so lukewarm on that. I don't care.
I'd prefer not.
But none of you are like, I'll stab you in the heart if you do it.
I won't be eating that pizza.
No, that's fine. I also once tried a pizza with banana topping on one of my trips to Sweden. Did Lars pay you to say this? That's the strangest food I've eaten. The strangest food I've eaten is boar. What's yours?
Oh boy. Shark.
You had shark?
Yeah.
Didn't taste like much, did it?
No.
Yeah.
It was very underwhelming.
Have you guys had head cheese?
No. Look, I understand why it would be good, but why did they have to pick that name?
It couldn't be less appealing.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. But it was good.
I had a lot while I was in Southeast Asia. I think I had snake at some point.
Oh, so you're the reason why we're in lockdown.
Kind of chickeny, actually. Nick Geyer says, hey, I don't have a question, but I do have a story. My grandmother informed me of something really cool. Great aunt was the secretary for former player, coach, and GM Sid Abel. When my great aunt got married, the Gordie Howe made an appearance at the wedding. That is cool as hell. I hope there's pictures. Tyler C says, what will happen first? The Red Wings win a playoff series or I get a full night's sleep? I have a set of twin boys that are turning 4 and another set of twin boys that are turning 1.
Oh my.
Red Wings playoff series win. That's not even a question.
I'm not even kidding.
It doesn't matter if that takes 10 years. That's still the more likely scenario.
Oh, Tyler. Bless you. I'm sure they're great kids.
We're going to have another shot just for him.
No kidding. 2 sets of twins.
Oh God.
How did you survive 2 heart attacks is my question when you found out they were twins either time.
Oh my God. I remember the fear when we found out Crystal's pregnant with the second, because our plan was always 2 kids. So we're like, if we have twins on the first shot, great, we're done. But then Crystal's got a lot of twins in her family. I found out I have twins in my family. So when she was on the second pregnancy, we're like, please, God, please, just one, just one. We don't want 3 kids.
We want 2, but what happens if you get, 1 the first time and the next one is triplets and you're just like, what do you do?
Run.
You'd run, right? Yeah. You're just kidding, Mel. We're just kidding. Kat, Mel, we're just kidding.
I wasn't kidding.
Cody Stark says, hello, Canadian neighbors. Canada's letting me drive to my camper on Monday for the first time in a year and a half. It's actually in the States, but it's one of the 3 geographic oddities in the U.S. where you can only get there by driving through Canada. The place is actually half a mile from where Manitoba, Ontario, and Minnesota meet, called the Northwest Angle. Anyways, I'm taking the whole week off work to head up and watch a shit ton of walleye, or catch a shit ton of walleye out of your Ontario waters of Lake of the Woods. There's a family of possums living in my camper. I'll name them after you guys.
I watched a video on this. They, in the winter, made an ice road. If this is the right place, they made an ice road to get people there. And that was like their tourism budget to like generate some revenue. I think this is the right place.
That is cool as hell. I wish I was a rugged enough person to be taking ice roads and sitting out in the cold.
That's not.
I'm far too much of a diva. Like I complain too much.
Yeah.
Cheers to you, Cody. Give Blood, Fight Probert. That's an awesome name. Says, hey boys, greetings again from deep South Texas. Curious if you heard Frank Cervalli's interview on Chicklets and what you thought about the insider stuff he discussed. Most notably for me was a statement about most all of the GMs and agents openly tampering before free agency beginning, and his insinuation that the league was turning a blind eye to it. Thanks for all you do and keep it up.
How could they not be? The signings started rolling in at like 12:01. Do you know how complicated an NHL contract is? That's not something you're banging out, submitting, signing, and getting submitted in like 15 minutes.
I think it's prevalent across all major sports leagues. It's got to be.
Absolutely is.
And you know what? I don't care. I don't either. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. Once the season's over, all bets are off. As is right now, like don't push it more than it is right now. Like if you have teams like opening, like I think the NBA pushes it a bit too far with players like openly campaigning and stuff like that. But as is with the NHL right now, fully comfortable with that. Tej says, so if Ryan is going to start doing us, I forgot I had that slip up last episode. Mm-hmm. If Ryan's going to start doing us, should we call you daddy? No, I don't make nearly enough money to have that name for the podcast. Also with all of our signings this season, do you think there's a chance Mo starts the season in Grand Rapids as opposed to Detroit?
Almost none, unless he has a horrific preseason in camp.
I'll say there's like a 1 in 4 chance.
I think that's high.
If you had to think of things that are most likely going to piss Brad off this season.
Oh, that'd be at the top of my list. If I'm watching opening day Gustav Lindstrom while Mo Sider's in Grand Rapids, like I'm throwing hands with someone.
Bowling Like Botas says, playing my first hockey tournament this week and just finished my 5th game in 2 days. And I've transformed to milk bag to completely dead. Yeah, that's about how it goes for tournaments. Well, I can't play real golf.
Can't wait to see Ryan on Tuesday.
Oh, it's going to be bad. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, there better be a lot of guys there because I am not going out more than like twice every 10 minutes.
Okay, I think we have like 2 or 3 per bench. You're screwed.
I'm not helping you out. I'm not coming to that.
You have no idea how intentionally poorly I'll play, so I don't have to skate.
Oh, well, no, we don't skate. We're all milk bags as well.
Yeah. While I can't play real golf, I play a mean game of Mario Golf if we'd want to have a virtual golfing tournament. Mario Golf, I like the PGA Tour 2K21. That one's not bad as well. Neil G says, I got permission from the wife to travel from Alaska to Detroit to go to WWP night in November. Hell yeah.
Jesus.
I want to go to Alaska so bad.
Yeah, bring us back with you. Not sure if I should be excited or worried about what she wants / expects in return. Whatever it is, I can tell you we're not worth it, but thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why you're so worried. You live with bears, man. Like,
looking forward to some fresh faces in Grand Rapids. Who do you think will make a name for themselves and start forcing Stevie's hand for a call up first? Keep up the great content.
I'm hoping, and it's probably the most likely answer, Lucas Raymond.
That is the most happy answer. The real one will probably be Joe Valeno, with seeing how the roster might shake out.
Yeah, but we already kind of know.
Oh, man, you guys are going to be upset when Chase Pearson's called up.
You joke, but you're probably right.
I know.
We know.
Woodson2 says, hey guys, love the pod and happy you guys get to record together again. 4-man golf scramble. It's you and any current or past Red Wings. Only rules, you can only pick one forward, one D-man, and one goalie.
Henrik Zetterberg's a good golfer.
Is he?
Yeah.
Of course you're going on skill. I'm thinking just the beers and the conversation. So I'm going Hasek, Nick, and
Gordy. Because that's
Gordy or
my answer.
Yeah, Gordy or Stevie.
Hasek because he's hilarious.
Yeah.
Nick because Nick. You have to have one composed player on the course.
Yeah.
And Gordy because that would be just...
Yeah, that's the right answer.
The hockey stories. You want someone who can, when they talk, it's worth listening to, and that's Gordie Howe. Ghost of Podcast Past says, your goal is for maximum chaos. What one penalty do you take out of the rule book?
And the goal is maximum chaos?
Goaltender interference.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
That is an incredible answer.
Someone's getting Pete Rose every game, and that'd be incredible.
Kay Stangy says, question, what has 2 bad knees, no good seasons in the last few years, and is full of grit? Answer, I don't know, but Kenny wants to give him a big-ass contract for the full NMC. All jokes aside, though, thoughts...
that was a joke about me there for a
I was going to say, yeah.
I immediately thought of Dan Cleary.
Thoughts and prayers for our friends in Edmonton. Kenny's going to Kenny. Jacob Vokes, sorry, Jake, if I'm saying your name wrong, says, don't worry about saying you were going to do all of the patrons. It could be worse. During an audit at work last week, I meant to say, been sitting on the shelf for years, but what I actually said was been shitting itself for years. Yeah, that's us on the Winged Wheel podcast.
Yep.
Anyways, just bought a house myself yesterday. Any advice for new homeowners? Well, first of all, congratulations.
Yeah, I'll take that advice as well.
Yeah.
I don't even own the house that we're in right now, so.
Me neither.
My girlfriend does. I don't. I'm just the freeloader.
Yeah.
I'm here to be a pretty face.
What I've learned very quickly is to do things a little bit slower. We've been trying to do every single project at the same time and nothing gets done. And it's just not a good way of doing things.
And when I think of Evan, I always think, man, I wish this guy would slow down. He's just going too fast.
Yeah. Well, we got like 1,000 different contractors coming to the house. It's like, I just need to prioritize and focus on one thing at a time.
Lars, the prophet of the towering behemoth, says, greeting surstrimming lovers. When I support a team, I generally want them to play an attractive style of play. Sure, I'm happy when my teams win, but I want them to look good doing it. What's your thoughts about that? Are you okay with skull-numbing Islanders hockey as long as they win, or isn't winning enough by itself and you want CCCP style domination like I do? No, I'm happy to win. Right? Like, I have an appreciation for the game, even the not flashy kinds. Maybe that's just because I really love good defense, but that's obviously what like not flashy hockey looks like when you win like that. No, I'm happy to just win. I don't really care how it happens.
Have any of those quote unquote style of teams won the cup?
St. Louis? I don't know.
Or kind of, but they had Schwartz, Riley, Tarasenko.
Yeah.
They were scoring a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Most teams are going to some variation of a stingy defense these days, and if you don't have the offense to overcome it, it's just going to be a pile up in the mushy middle soon.
C Nods says, "Hey guys, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you with the recognition and growth you've recently seen. From the first interview with an active player to working with the Wings, great achievements, and can't wait to see the future growth." Thank you, C Nods. Question is, we have a nasty habit of getting to needing a third party for the RFA contracts. Do you think that, along with the consistent threat of trade hurts organizations' relations with its players? Mantha's trade really helped set in no one is safe besides the really young guns. I think there's a risk there for sure. I don't want to say that necessarily applies in Detroit's case, but you have to walk a line. Because I don't think anything in terms of asset management that's been done has been inappropriate. I agreed with almost all of it. But there definitely is a world where you can take it too far, right?
Oh, yeah. We've seen teams do it time and time again. And it blows up in their face eventually. I don't think that's what's going to happen here. Like, as soon as the first long-term contract gets signed by Stevie, guys will go, oh, okay, here we go. But that's probably not going to be this offseason.
Vaxed Fresh Cheesebags says, "Hey fellas, glad to announce that my furlough is over and I'm back slinging drinks at Fred's in the great Upper West Side of Manhattan. My short break from posting is now over that I'm adjusting to being back to work with the influx of patrons from the draft streams. What will the future of the Winged Wheel podcast overtime segment become? Will you implement a character limit on Patreon comments because..." Very clever, Joseph. Colorado 14er says, "I noticed the Wings YouTube channel runs episodes of the Winged Wheel. Will the members of this pod, like Vron and Ernie, be asking for arbitration?" No, we won't. Instead, we're going to be partnering with them. Mr. MySock says, "Hey, y'all, what's your go-to fast food pizza and cheap beer combo? For me, it's Little Caesars and Labatt Blue, not light." If I'm getting like fast food pizza, I really appreciate Domino's. I think they know what they are and they do it well for cheap.
That question was actually Chris Illich, and you just ended our partnership.
I don't have a Little Caesars near me.
Neither do I, but I make it work.
You go? Oh, good for you.
Actually, not too bad. Lackner in Victoria area.
When I'm back in Windsor, it's Little Caesars, but I don't think there's even a Little Caesars anywhere near me where we are.
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah. Hot Ready's though, man. Yeah. Oh, wow. The amount of Hot Ready's I put away when I was in high school probably explains a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Hot Ready's, I'm hot and ready to go. Have fun, guys.
All right. See you later, Brad. Next comments from Rowan from LORW. Good day, Dudgettes. It's I, Rowan. They didn't let me do an ad read. I believe it's due to my appearance fee being per minute. Anyways, it was a record 69,420 unique listeners. Speaking of ad reads, I would encourage everyone to head over to Paneotees.com and grab some gear that is by fans for fans. Recently acquired one of their t-shirts and it's slick as heck. So this is Peter's site. PANAYIOTEES.com and you use promo code YZERMAN to get yours. Now, before Kevin gets all no free ads, listen here, pal. By supporting the show, patrons get their comments read out. How I use that comment is up to me, and any attempt at censorship is weak and sad. And may I remind you, Kevin, that you promoted your own employer a while back, you corporate sellout. You didn't even say anything this time. You're fine with the ad.
Well, you're the one who censors it, so... Wow. I have no power during this segment. It's funny that Brad is gone right now. So who really is at fault here? Oh, it's always Brad. A man who ran away from the crime. Jersey time. Quick fire, home or away. Don't think, just answer. Minnesota. Wait, sorry. Home or away? Jerseys? Yeah. Which ones are the greens? Homes. Home. I say away. Rangers. Home. Home. Arizona. Home. Kachina home? Kachina home, yeah. Montreal, home. Edmonton. Pass. This comment is brought to you by Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, a Fournier company, and Panayotes. Remember, Panayotes.com and Andrianopoulos company. Peter, I'm so sorry for messing up. Is that a real company, or is that supposed to be like them trying to get you to say something stupid? No. That's Peter's actual, he has a t-shirt. Oh, yeah. I see. Okay. He has the Retire 91 shirts. Okay. I don't know if you've seen them on Twitter. No. Those are cool. I've got to actually. I thought for sure it was someone just trying to get you to say something dumb. I don't pre-read these for the most part. Yeah, I know. That's why I thought that's what it was. Yeah, I'm always at risk.
I came in hot. When we first started doing the show, I was like, you can't get me. My mind's sharp. And now I'm just like in a fog.
It took all of 2 or 3 questions to make that happen.
Yeah. Some Reddit questions from before that deserve, we didn't get a chance for last time. From Stepa21 says, do you think Yzerman has any big moves left in store this offseason, or is he largely done? Never say never.
Unless something happens in training camp or there's someone falls off a jet ski and gets hurt or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd imagine they're done for now.
There's always, every GM in the league should always have the capacity.
There could be some PTO options too.
But that's not big, right? Like,
no, yeah, I suppose that's not big.
If it's a big move, it'll be a trade. There's not really anything left in terms of signing at this point.
Yeah, they could bring Riley Shahan back in. He's a UFA.
No, that's true. Meme Lord Overkill says, what will the Wings win first? A draft lottery or a Stanley Cup?
Stanley Cup?
I think the answer here might be Cup, right? Pesky Prussian says, prospect deep cuts. How excited are you that Kirill Chuchiev was signed by the Griffins for next season? Must actually mean that they see something in him to give him a closer look. I consider that a win in itself. And I think that's the right analysis. Like, is he a surefire bet? No, absolutely not. But with how late he was picked and what he can do, I think it's worthwhile to be excited just in that. Do you think that Mastro has a chance to break out with Boston U this season? Yeah, I think so. I think you're looking for Master Simone to have... He was a really good, in my mind, second round pick, and he has a ton of ability and potential, especially offensively, where I think he does have that chance to pan out. So you would hope that he has a kind of a breakout season to cement his path towards the Red Wings a little bit sooner. Well, I don't want to say a little bit sooner. Patience is a virtue with prospects. And do we have any... Yarvik7 says, what are the odds on JFV, which is Joe F. and Veleno, breaking camp and being on the Red Wings opening night roster? Before looking at the roster, I would have said 75%.
Yeah, and that's what I was just doing. And when I start to actually think about guys who are going to be on the team, it seems low. And if it's going to be low, I'd rather him just be in Grand Rapids, because I do not think he needs to be sitting in the press box.
Agreed.
Doing nothing. Oh, man. Unless he's got to play his way onto the team in camp. Otherwise, I'd prefer him just to be in Grand Rapids.
I'll give him a 40% chance. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap up this week's episode of the Winged Wheel podcast. We will be with you at minimum next week. But depending on when the Verona news comes out, we might be doing something midweek. But for now, this is a kickoff to our summer break. We're going down to 1-a-week episodes. Midweeks will be Patreon exclusive, shorter but fun episodes. We'll start that process next week. We're going to take this week just to kind of relax, hopefully, if Steve Yzerman lets us. Thank you all for tuning in. We'd like to thank all of our listeners, our name level sponsors, Arjun Shankar, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Garand Foundation, Kyle Karagitz, Nick Perks, Brett Bailey, Terry, driver of Crying Ryan, Hannah's Banana Slamma Jamathon, Taylor Tagel, Brandon M, Citizen High Five, Craig Kibble, Derek Enstem, DJ Denton, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Greach, Han Ali, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jacob Turner, Jake Kiefer, Jeremiah Dobo, Joe Santangelo, Justin and the Angry Mob, Kalen Wood, King Tone, Cody Stark, Kyle Hashman, Kyle McClure, Matt McKay, Matthew M. Rice, Pissing and Moaning Brad Crisco, R.A., Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, Stacy Lynn, Zach Spring, Andrew Bohan, Sam Bankson, Adam I Wish I Could Finish Like Ernie, Antonio Gracias, Colorado 14ers, Connor Leighton, currently out of name ideas, Dave W., Evans Bingo Card, Halligan Beer, Jeremy Brocker, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Matt Keeler, Matt S., As Good As It Gets, Motorboatin' Son of a Bert, Trevor Pavivar, Vaxxed Fresh Cheese Bags, and Zach Handyside. Oh, and Zach McCann, a driving range superstar. Thank you all so much. We'll see you sometime.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.